plan on messing with this today. That looks way over. Look at the curve in that tire. That looks way over aired. However, as soon as I got it in the garage, I can't stop myself. I started pulling things apart just to kind of figure things out. The air box really does have a K&N filter, but it was full of water. Rainwater, no doubt. Concerns me a little bit. But it would have to get quite a bit of water for it to get all the way up into the carburetor. Must be a seat safety switch. We looked at that already. It's got some stellar battery cables. The throttle works, mostly. I think it's just the fact that this is rusty right here. The cable just needs some Earl. Front brakes are still stuck. High-low range. Or, excuse me, forward reverse. This is the PTO. It's weird, the PTO has got two levers. It has two levers. It's got this one over here, which it engages, okay, the gearbox that drives the PTO, but it also has a second cable that goes up into the throttle, which is broken, which is fine. I'm assuming it kicks up the throttle. That'll come back. It's working. It's better than it was. I'm assuming it does a little kick up on the throttle. It's interesting. Start button's in here. That's disappointing, but understandable. That's definitely an aftermarket exhaust. Must be the speedometer cable. Yeah, speedometer cable. So we're just kind of poking around. There's a lot of cables. There's a lot of safety things on this. There's a lot I may delete. I don't know. Again, it's just kind of fun to mess with. Back brake works. Back brakes are juice brakes, and they work. This lever here does the... But I have to put another bolt in there, and it might actually work. It's kind of interesting. They oh yeah, they got in here too. This is what's like, I don't know if it's tweaker or it's just, I mean, just got in there and like twisted wires to do weird stuff. I'm just gonna hot wire it, right? Hot wire with a key. Turn the key on, engine runs. See if I can mount that back on there, at least for a push button. I'm probably not going to get front fenders for it. There's no sense dumping a bunch of money into this thing. Even if it runs like a champ, I don't see myself like pimping this thing out. I'll just leave it alone without front and make it the new Woodsman to take the chainsaws out. Got a nice front rack, and I might take this home on this trip and then configure a rear rack for it. Or another trip, doesn't matter. But that's probably going to be the option, is make a front and rear rack on this thing. If it runs, right, before I put a minute into this. I got to make sure this engine isn't grenaded, seized. Who knows what other water is in it. I haven't even looked at the crankcase. I don't think this is a dipstick, right? This is just a sight. Could be wrong. Let's see. Oh. It's got oil in it. I don't see any water in it. Oh, I may do an addendum to this movie if I get ambitious and play with it. It's definitely been sitting out in the weather. I don't know what this is. Not sure what that symbol stands for. And I also don't know if it's a push or pull. I suppose I could follow the cable to see where it goes. I don't want to force it. Of course, it's got some sort of sensor on it. Looks factory. So where does that cable go? Goes to this. Huh. Emergency brake. TerraPro, man, never heard of it. It goes to the thing on the rear axle there. So that might be some sort of brake lock. I just can't leave things alone. I was just going to push it in the garage and go for a drive, visit some friends. Well, there you go. There's your addendum. All right, now for real. Gotta go. Gotta run. See ya. For my third encore on this video. I'm intrigued by this thing. Really intrigues me. I grabbed the VIN and I had a neighbor run it because my phone doesn't get interweb up here. And it's a 1988 Yamaha TerraPro rototiller lawnmower off this PTO. It's cool. It's actually a cool looking. I think it's a cool looking truck. Not truck. What is it? Quad. Sorry, I just got done cutting grass, and I'm a little sunstroked. What am I gonna say? Oh, it's a good utility rig. It's missing the front clip as we talked about. If I get this thing running and it's actually functional, I'm gonna look to see if I can buy a front clip. I guess the fender, the fenders and front clip area is all one piece. The grill is another piece. My neighbor said there's one, I think he said on eBay for a couple $100 or something. I'll run it without fenders. I'm not scared, but again, it's got to run. I think I talked about this before. This can is aftermarket. I don't even know what this thing's going to sound like. But what I want to do is I want to put 12 volts to this thing, see if I can get the engine to turn, maybe even fire a little bit, because all this cobbled electrical and you know, I can heat this up and straighten that, and I can weld this bracket. I mean, all that stuff's all fixable. And I don't have any idea what this is. I'm going to have to look. I have no idea what that sign means. It's a pull cable. I suppose I can follow the cable to it. It has a 2-wire sensor that goes off of that. I don't know. It's fan cooled, right? This is an air cooled rig, but it has a fan, probably belt driven. I would assume it's belt driven. I don't know that for sure, but I'm just making assumptions. And that's interesting, but makes sense, right? If you're tilling or cutting grass, you're driving really slow and you're not getting a lot of air over the cylinder head. I'm also going to see if I can get this thing to turn over. No key, so I'm probably just going to drill out this lock and just use a screwdriver or something. Yeah, but I'm going to mess with this first. I'm going to bring the old Big Bear in here because that's got a car battery on it. I'll put some jumper cables on this thing, and let me move some things around, and we'll bring you right back and see if we can get something to do something. Let's see if we get any lights. Let's start with the basics. Relay. Oof, wire's horrible. Let's not start a fire, kids. Key. Woo! Got to be the switch for that. Now, so I just do with that thing. Here it is. Turn the lights off. Can't be this easy. We are in neutral. Ooh. How did I do that? Single-handedly made it. You guys heard that, right? I'm not imagining things. Hold on. Did that really happen? That didn't just really happen. I'm imagining things again. Where can you guys sit where I won't drop you? Oop. Here. Y'all can come along for this one. Let me get on this side. squirt a little gasoline in the carburetor and see what happens. Did I just really hear it start? Turn over. This is hold on. I'm gonna do a little trouble. Right, troubleshoot. Oh, there's no fuel. Fuel off. So what I have here is a bit of a tweaker special, which doesn't surprise me. Oops. Yep, screw that. Yeah, let's just get it running, or at least evaluate if it's going to run first, and then we can get clever. Let me strip these wires. I'll be right back. I don't want to waste your time. Alright, I'm going to bypass that completely. We're going to jump the starter relay. A little liquid lightning, just to see if we can get a pop. I did get the throttle to sort of unstick. It's loose enough. Alright, boys and girls. I know there's no fuel in this thing, but we got fire. We don't seem to have any crazy sounds coming out of the engine there. What if I were to put some actual fuel in the carburetor? Okay, I'm gonna DC it from here. I don't know what this tank looks like. I'm gonna fill this thing with some gas, and I'm gonna pull this off my hand with one hand. And let's see if I can get it to kind of run on its own. Ooh, that doesn't smell right. So we'll just let that go out on the ground. That's weird. Yeah, I got this to move. It sticks, but like I said, I think I said yesterday, some of this has got to be cable. This cable's got everything coming to it. Let me get with some fuel. Let me shut this off so we don't catch our own selves on fire. Be right back. the daylights out of it. We're going to call this a runner. This has all kinds of stuff going to it. And obviously the fuel went totally south in it. So I'm going to consider this a runner. It didn't sound like there were any weird noises in there. It sounds like it's going to be really loud with this aftermarket muffler. I don't know if I like that or not, but I'll deal with it when it's time to deal with it. Alright, we're going to put this one to bed, third encore. Alright, now I got to go, got to run. See you! I just can't leave well enough alone. Here we are at some undetermined time of middle of the night / early morning. I had to take the carburetor apart because I just had to. There's a lot of complicated cables and stuff and things that are going on with this. A lot of things going on with this. However, that's the top. The biggest hurdle, the jet was clean. Okay, this main jet was in pretty decent shape. Let me see light through that. The problem was no fuel was getting to the carburetor. I pulled the floats off. This needle valve was gummed up really bad. This thing, you couldn't even tell it was silver. It had mud in there. Well, it would look like mud, but yeah, so I ran some carb cleaner in there, some compressed air. The bowl looks pretty decent now. It had a bunch of organic mud and muck in there, and I'm kind of blowing out all the squirrel's nest or mice nest acorns. Yep, so let's see if this thing runs. I'm going to set you down for a minute and put all this back together. Put the fuel tank back on and throw a little bit of fresh fuel in it and see if this thing runs and moves under its own power. And then, well, we'll take it from there. Remember, I wasn't going to look at this on this trip. But then the rules that I put upon myself to not bring this home, bring a new project home till the sawmill's done. I mean, I'm just sitting up here lounging. I'm just relaxing. This is relaxing to me. I think I mentioned that earlier. And it's fun. So I got carb cleaner, I got some PB blaster. Where's this liquid wrench? Liquid wrench. Loosening up things that need to be loosened up. This is some carb cleaner. Reassemble, throw some fuel. We'll be back in just a moment. Just going to run it off. We've got the funnel with the fuel. Looks like it's filled. The bowl's just fine. Take the battery charger off. The big bear so I don't damage anything. Hopefully there's no spilled gas and there won't be a giant fireball. Alright kids, here we go. Out. Should we do a choke? Nah. Contact. Well, I suspect that was some sort of safety. I made it shut it off. Because there is a switch on that, so let's keep it back that way. Let's try it again. let's put the tank on, put the plastic on, let's take this thing for a ride. I told myself, because I like, I don't know why I like doing stuff like this, but I told myself I would not bring this thing home. Extremely tempting to throw this in the back of the Dodge and bring it home and spend time at my own house getting this thing sorted out and fished out, whatever. But I told myself that I wouldn't bring home another project until the sawmill was done. Seems like a pretty simple, what is that? Must be the ignition control module or something. Super distracted. I told myself I wouldn't bring home another project to distract me from the sawmill. And I also told myself, hey, you're only up here for a handful of days to sleep and relax and do whatever. Don't get yourself buried in any projects. Well, I start tinkering around with this thing, and this is what we have. So, I extended some wires. I did a little soldering. I got into this control head here. I got the push button to work. I got the headlight switch to work. Whether or not I choose to run the front clip on here, I can run headlights. I have the stock harness here. There's for one side, there's for the other. The green is the low beam, the yellow is the high beam. It works, which is pretty cool. This is a start cutoff. You're not supposed to be able to turn it over unless you pull the clutch in. This switch is kind of messed up because it's been sitting in the weather. I may or may not take that apart. I don't really care about it, so I unplugged it. And I just taped it off to keep water and mud and dirt out of there. But if I decide to pull this apart, clean this, it's probably just dirty connection. But again, that clutch is super stiff, super sloppy. This one was intermittent. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So I just completely unplugged it, and now it starts every time from the push button. I took these two control heads apart. They were full of water, full of funk. You pull this little seal back here. I loaded it full of liquid wrench. Got these both to work. I got this welded up. Yeah. This is missing the button, right? They're supposed to both have buttons to lock out. So you pull up the thing for the detent, and you've got PTO. So you've actually got two levers for PTO. I don't know if I talked about this yet. That engages the little thing on the end of the transmission here. Let me pull this lever, which causes this pulley to spin, and then this lever on this side and pulls the tension onto the belts and allows this change of direction, little gearbox deal, and spins where you would set a spline shaft. That works. Oops. You gotta pull the little lock out. Okay, and it locks. This, I'm assuming this is forward and reverse. That shifts right there. I'm assuming. There's only two detents on this. This also has a ball detent on the back. That's what this guy is here. The ball is missing. I suspect when this thing got broken, the ball probably went flying. I don't know. Maybe. I lined all this back up the best I could. The metal was really fatigued, so I came in with a wire feed welder and I welded it. It's as strong as that's going to get. Forward reverse, I'm going to look for a ball. This is a 1/4 inch spring. The diameter of the spring is 1/4 inch. The diameter fits pretty well in there. Oops. So I don't know that I have a steel ball around here. This belt is good. By the way, that fan pulls. It does have a brake light switch. There was probably a spring that hooked on. Yep, see, there's a little thing here, so there was a spring that hooked onto this for a reverse or a brake light. Because I'm looking at the rear light here, which is broken. I think I'm going to take the brake light assembly out of that Chinese quad, swap it out for this one. Here's the rear harness. There's a wire that's not used. I'm assuming that's the brake light. I'm assuming this is a single filament bulb that's in here. I haven't looked that closely at it. All this wiring needs to be cleaned up, but and then this needs to go back into its little pouch right here. It belongs in there. I'm not sure why that was pulled out of there, other than the fact that this thing had wasps' nests in it. Ooh, those are juicy ones. Ay, ay, ay. So I wasn't, like I said, going to mess with this, but I get out here, I start tinkering around. If I leave the front naked like this and I don't spend 200 bucks or so on a front clip, I'm not sure that I will. Again, it really all depends on how well this engine runs. It does fire, it's got good compression. I'm assuming it's a good runner, but I want to feel the clutch, I want to feel the transmission, I want to make sure this is usable before I spend any money on it. Right now I'm just doing stuff that doesn't cost me any money, just a little bit of time. Relays here, and this is enjoyable to me. You know, I don't watch TV. This is my hobby. I like messing around with stuff, undoing dumb stuff. But I might make just mud flaps here. Make some sort of mud flaps. Leave the front naked. It's possible. I'm tempted to do. This is 13 inches between here. I could put a 12-inch light bar right here. I may do some round work lights on the front, which would be the low beam, and then on the high beam switch would be the LED light bar. I have some round utility lights in LED. That wouldn't cost me anything. A light bar, a 12-inch LED light bar on the eBays is pretty cheap. I don't know. Again, God, this thing has so many safeties and wires and switches. The parking brake works. Got that to work. Been shooting a lot of PB Blaster just to kind of get everything loosened up again. Let me put power to it. Let me show you what's going on here. The old Big Bear is loaning me its electricity. It's mighty generous like that. Let's see if we can burn this thing down single-handedly. Stop it. That light doesn't come on, but I'm just assuming it's a bad bulb. I think that's a pretty fair assumption. You turn the key on, you'll get a neutral light, and you'll get the temp light, which works. And then the temp light slowly fades off. I'm assuming that's just the sensor. Pull the parking brake. Parking brake works. I push this lever here forward. Get the PTO light telling me we got PTO out the back, although I think it'd be pretty obvious. The reverse light doesn't come on. The bulb is good, I know, because I swapped it with the temperature bulb, but I'm not sure if it actually needs to engage. And I'm just assuming this is reverse. I don't see any other levers on here until I get this thing actually running. Ready? So the switch here works. It's got good compression. So that's nice. I'm happy that this all came together. I had to resolder all the wires in there. Added some short pigtails for the start button. Just little stuff. Kind of defarmerizing this thing. It's pretty cool. So many things to go wrong. Like that's not factory. I'm not even sure what that. I don't know what that's for. I don't know. Just gonna get it running. I want it to run. I want to drive it and go, okay, the transmission works. We got gears, the rear end works. We got a functional rear end. It's gonna need, if all that checks out, I gotta look into front bearings, because watch this. It's pretty loose. Look at the bottom of the shock tower. Yeah, this front end's pretty beat up. I don't know if that's just bushings. This one's not as bad. I don't know. We'll get to it. This head's a little loose here. But, you know, it's just a work rig. I don't know. All right, anyway. Now I'm going to run for show. Gotta go. Gotta run.